let's get into this, folks. I want to have a conversation with you guys about something that I think is really important. We're not going to do a lot of post-production here. This is just going to be a very real conversation about a very serious subject that continues to plague me. And quite frankly, it plagues the body of Christ. And I am just overwhelmingly saddened by it all. Look, it goes without saying, we are living in a world filled with an immense amount of deception. And when I say immense amount of deception, it feels like everywhere you go, somebody is telling a lie. They might not be verbally lying to you in the moment by actually telling you something that isn't true, but in some cases, they're living a lie. They're projecting something on you that they really have nothing to do with. We see this in social media all the time. Someone puts up a picture and they want to put on their best behavior. They want to show you their best side. Everything seems to be about image. I have been somewhat disillusioned by so many of the people that I used to look up to in ministry, that when you spend time looking at them, talking to them, getting to examine what their lives are really about, they go beyond being people that are simply flawed. They're actually people that are living lives that project a complete double standard. And it's funny because social media helps us to do this. You know, you put up a picture on social media, you edit it the best possible way you can, you put it in the best possible light, you follow certain rules, there's certain things you say and things you're not supposed to say. And I see this everywhere. I see guys that talk about holiness who are actually cheating on their wives. I just saw, anyway, it's a long story. I'm not going to get into it. It feels like everywhere you turn, you see something like that. You see people being given to ungodliness, and it's nothing but a whole poop load of fakery, right? And we wonder why so many kids are running into the arms of Islam. We wonder why so many kids are like literally escaping into a place of just complete hopelessness. Their whole lives, they're being taught that everything under the sun is okay. You can embrace the LGBTQ plus whatever alphabet mafia nonsense. They're being told if you're a man and you want to feminize, it's completely okay. Your effeminate characteristics are not only acceptable, but they're moderately praiseworthy. And they go their whole lives into being deceived to do things that God never intended for them to do. And then when they come up empty as a result of all of that, when they have their dreams shattered and all the wonderful things that God wanted to give them and make available to them taken away from them because of a series of really ugly and wicked decisions, ungodly decisions as a result of being schooled in unrighteousness, they come up completely sad. They come up completely empty. They come up heartbroken, and so they look for the next best thing. They'll look at somebody like Andrew Tate, for example, and I have no desire to judge the guy, honestly. That's not what I'm doing here. But they'll look at a guy like him, and they'll see certain characteristics that might appear to be admirable, that's against what the rest of the world says is good or acceptable, and they like the manhood aspect of it, right? They like the sort of the aspect that shows, man, I can be a tough guy and be accepted this way. And they move to another extreme in order to find something they've always been searching for. Why? Because the whole time they were never sober. They were intoxicated from the very beginning by men who were intoxicated. They were intoxicated from the very beginning by women who have been intoxicated. They've been intoxicated from the very beginning by all kinds of people who are so drunk out of their brains that they have no idea what is right, what is good, what is normal, what is acceptable, what God desires. And folks, I'm not talking about alcohol. I'm not talking about drugs. When I talk about people being intoxicated, what I'm saying is sin is the number one intoxicant in human nature. If you allow yourself to be given to sinful practices, and your ability to be able to have any kind of clarity, moral clarity, any kind of clarity with respect to what you do in your own life, understanding just basic things, where things came from, where they're going, understanding the sense of direction that maybe God wants you to have, it's all gone. You throw it out the door, because when there is no moral clarity, it is always a reflection of the fact that the sobriety is gone. And the fastest way to lose sobriety is sin. when you don't do things the way that God has asked you to do. Now, it sounds like I'm on a big old soapbox and I'm preaching something, but just bear with me for a second because my heart is breaking right now, right? I continue to see examples after examples after examples after examples of people who are just living completely fake lives. They don't care about the things that are important. They seem to fear the wrong things. They estrange themselves to things that are righteous, and they continue to go down a path of destruction that is constantly hammering away at everything that is good that God wants them to have. Guys, this is terribly sad. And I want to bring something up because the Bible makes this clear. The Bible tells us that right now we are indeed in the last days. If you look at the Bible's characterization of the things that we should be expecting in the last days, we're watching it happen in front of us. So many different things are manifesting. We should live with the understanding that Christ could come at any moment. Now, I'm going somewhere with this because this is incredibly important. We're talking about Israel. We're talking about Hezbollah. We're talking about Gaza. We're talking about everything that's going on right now in Judea, Samaria, the Palestinian Authority. We're talking about things that are happening in Libya. We're talking about things happening in North Africa, South Africa, West Africa, East Africa. We're talking about Spain. We're talking about Eastern Europe, Western Europe. The whole world is literally on fire. It is set ablaze, and things are so immensely crazy. It is beyond anything we have ever seen before in human history. And it seems as though, as obvious as it might appear, that things are as they are, as chaotic as they are, you would think, people would develop a very keen understanding of what is right and wrong. You would think that the lines would not be denigrated. You would think that there'd be no blurriness there, that it would just be an obvious, this is the way it is, and everything is at stake, so why aren't we on guard? But it seems as though we are delving into a much different direction. It seems as though things are getting darker and darker and darker and darker, and the lines are getting fuzzier and more blurry, and that is because the God of this world, literally Satan, is continuing to drive people into a direction where they allow themselves to capitulate to the destructive force of sin, and it takes away their ability to see a clear data set and interpret it correctly. Folks, each and every single one of us are looking at the same things happening around us, but we're all interpreting it differently, especially when what we're seeing is through the lens of somebody who is living a blatantly sinful life. I'm not telling you, stop sinning because I'm some righteous man who's standing on a soapbox that says I'm perfect and I demand that you be like me, and I'm doing it so that I can make myself feel better and tell everybody to act a certain way. That is not what I'm doing here. I want you to understand that I'm a deeply flawed human being who makes a whole series of mistakes, but I am holding on to life, understanding that God is the only answer. And if I want any type of moral clarity, the only place I'm going to find it is in walking with the God of heaven. It's the only way it's going to happen. It's the only way we're going to be able to see and understand and know. Listen, I'm going to read a passage to you. And if there's ever a time I beg you, let me just say this, I beg you to pay attention to a passage. It's this one right here. Pay attention to this. Please, I'm begging you, pay attention to this passage. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. By the way, chapter 4, he just finishes describing what's going to happen in the rapture. Yes, the rapture is in the Bible. And he describes what it's going to look like when Christ comes for his church. Make no mistake about it. But look what he says concerning that time and that season. This is chapter 5, verse 1. Let me read this to you. It says, "But of the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write to you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night." Notice this. "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." Do you guys understand something? People in this time and day are going to look around and say, everything is wonderful. Let's have peace and safety. And instantly it's going to come down. All hell is going to break loose. All hell is going to break loose. But he says it. He says, if you're believers, you don't need to know about this because you yourself are perfectly aware of what is coming. He says in verse 4, but you, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. I wish I could read this to every pastor who makes their whole career out of using words and convincing people to be close to God when they themselves are not close to God. I'm not talking about guys that sin and struggle and want to get things right and are open and honest before the Lord. I'm talking about guys who just don't care. They're just living a fake life. I wish I could put this in front of some of those guys. I wish I could speak more clearly to guys like this. Why? Because he says, if you are walking in the light, if you are walking with God, this is not going to overtake you. You're not going to be overwhelmed. Why? Because you have the sobriety to be able to discern exactly what is in front of you. Look what he says. It's the declaration. He says, you are children. This is verse 5. You are children of the light and the children of the day, and we are not of the night nor of darkness. You can't be of darkness if you're participating in sinful activity. We got children that have suicidal ideation everywhere we go. We have people that are looking for hope. We're in the midst of a world that's being inundated with terrorism. There's a hatred for God like I've never seen before. There is a darkness, a canopy of darkness over this world that I have never seen in all the years that I've been in ministry, and I can make a very, very valid argument that human history has never seen a veil of darkness like this. And in a time like this, we need more than ever to be people who have real relationships with the creator of the universe that has the only solution that we can find in all of this. Look what he says. Therefore, keeping in mind all of this, we're children of the light, we're living in dark days. Therefore, let us not sleep, as do others. It's not time to hang out and rest and relax like everybody else. I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody. Please don't think I'm being offensive. I've never understood why guys in the ministry take their massive social media followings and use it to highlight their everyday goings to picnics and this and that and here and there. I don't think there's anything wrong with showing people your family and showing people fun things you do and having fun. But to take the scope of influence that God has given you and sleep in it. Oh, I want to make sure that I put in 4 or 5 hours to get a picture right that I'm going to put on social media so it gets taken the right way and I get more follows. That actually stick my neck out there for the sake of the gospel and use the scope of influence that God has given me to preach the truth. This is crazy, guys. I'm going to just say this right now. This doesn't just go to pastors, but I'm pounding on the pastors because what we see in the general population of Christianity is a reflection of what the leaders are doing. And if we as leaders continue to refuse to hold the higher standard, we fail the people that we lead. That's the problem. People are not willing to stick their necks out there and tell the truth about how to fix the problem because they themselves are a part of the problem. It's time to stop sleeping. People tell me, James, you need to get more sleep. Sleep is for the dead. Sleep is for the dead. This is in spiritual terms, but I'm telling you right now, we need to be people who are awake and fully aware of what's going on. And please, before you think I'm some guy who's just being a loud preacher and preaching at you, this is me being passionate and begging you to please see this for what it is. Some of you might be sitting in churches where your pastors are not modeling this for you. Okay, fine, whatever. Quite frankly, they can get lost because they probably already are lost. But the reality of it is, we have an obligation to walk in a place of activity and not slumber. He says this, therefore, let us not sleep as do others, right? Everybody else is sleeping. They're all asleep, folks. Let us not sleep as do others, but what? Let us do what? 2 things, very important things. Let us watch and let us be sober. Watching, what does watching mean? Watching means being aware, looking around, looking at the things around you. Do you understand that looking at all of those things doesn't mean anything? Absolutely means nothing if you're not sober enough to interpret the data. I'm begging you guys, stand with me. Walk in sobriety. Make a commitment to stay as close to the Lord as you possibly can, because only in that place will you find the clarity that you need to lead your families. If you're a father, to be a good father. If you're a mother, to be a good mother. If you're a grandmother, to be an amazing grandmother. Whatever it is, whatever station in life you are at, I don't care if you're 5 years old and listening to this. Be sober. Stay committed to righteous living so that God can open your eyes and give you clarity as in how you should be living. We're living in a tough time, folks. We're living in a day that is a very difficult day to be alive. I have never seen it more crazy than what I'm watching right now. I've never seen it more insane. But I want to beg you to do something. Please, 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 please. I want to beg you to do something. Open your eyes. See things for what they are and recognize the fact that the days in which we are living demand that we be sober. The days in which we are living demand that we be watchful. The days in which we are living demand that we not slumber. I'm begging you. I am begging you, please stand with me. Fight this fight like you've never fought it before. And the only way to do it is to achieve personal holiness. I can just simply tell you this. I can with confidence tell you that I'm a deeply flawed man who makes mistakes on a regular basis. I sin against God and my heart breaks because I do it. But I want more than ever to live a life that's righteous in the eyes of God, because I know that my days are numbered. I know that our days are numbered. So please, I'm begging you, fight with me. We got kids that are depending upon it. We got a society that is going to die without Christ. Let's fight the good fight. You wonder why I get on these videos and I'm so aggressive about things and so just convicted about these things? It's because God's given me clarity, and that clarity comes from walking in a place of sobriety and watching and staying awake long enough to watch. Please get in it with me, you guys. It's critically important. It's critically important. This is the last verse I want to read. This is so incredibly important. He said, "For they that sleep," this is verse 7, "sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night." In other words, if you're in the darkness, you're going to slumber in the darkness. If you're in the darkness, you're going to drink in the darkness. The idea is you're going to become intoxicated in the darkness. But let us who are of the day, notice this, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. Let's do it, guys. Let's get in it. So much depends on this fight. There it is. I love you. No background, no anything. Just want you guys to understand the value of something like this. It's critically important. Let's get into it, guys. We're in the last days. Let's live sober. Let's watch. God bless you.